Hey there! Bob from Oregon's Constant Gardener. Welcome to the OCG Fam Show to you, my YouTube buddies. What's going on? Let me know in the comments and we'll talk about it after the show. That's foamy. Mrs. got an espresso machine, got rid of the coffee maker, and it's strong. I don't know. I'm getting used to it. Anyway, let's get into the show. So, pot size can make a big difference in your grow. How big a pot you use. But is bigger better? Is smaller better? What are the factors? Scott and I talked about that a little bit, pursuant to a viewer question, and I'd like to show you the clip, and I think you'll find it interesting. So why don't you watch it, and I'll talk to you after.
Those things. Don Juan, question. What, if any, benefit would I possibly see going from a 7 to a 10-gallon flowering pot? Thanks, Bob, Scott, OCG, and the Nectar Fam. So, let's just... going to a little bigger pot, not a lot bigger pot, but a little bigger pot, are you going to see some advantage from that, and what would it be?
I mean, I personally like the larger pot because it buys me more room for air. It buys me a bigger root zone, and generally with a bigger root zone you get a bigger canopy, and with a bigger canopy you have the potential of more flower sites and more flower room.
So I mean, roots this wide are going to be a plant this wide. You
have to feed this all the time. Where if the roots are than this, I can kind of play with my feeding schedule a little bit more. I've got more room for air and way more room for fixing things.
You're going to see more water, which is negligible. Are you going to have to see more nutrients to do that?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
I mean, no, because a lot of times when you're in a little 3-gallon or 4-gallon pot, you're feeding them every day just to keep them alive, where if I'm in a 15-gallon pot, I'm feeding them twice a week, and there's so much nutrition in there, they're finding it all throughout the entire time. It really comes down to style, what you're looking for, what your ceiling height looks like, what your square footage is. I mean, if you're only allowed 6 plants in a 4x4, you probably don't want to be doing 10-gallon pots because you're going to over-canopy and they're going to all crowd. Where 6 and 5-gallon pots are probably going to be able to fit in there a lot nicer. So it's more about space, time, yield. I mean, like, one of our farms, he does a 10 and 10 no matter what. So it's a 10-week veg and a 10-week bloom. So he gets his all the way up into 15s because they have to, just to make sure the root zone ends in a 15, or else they'll be root bound by the time they're in the 2nd week of bloom.
Would you say a smaller pot is a more aggressive grow? As someone going from 4 to 8 to feed more. I mean, a smaller pot, you're going to have to be more on it.
Way more on it. But it's like growing in a Hugo block of rock wool in a tray. You got to feed them 3 times a day or they're going to dry up and die.
Yeah.
But if you're in a 2-gallon pot, aggressively feeding, the root ball eats up all the soil. You got to feed that thing twice a day just to keep it alive.
But if you're not in a very small tent, if you've got some room to grow, you would probably use a little more soil just to give yourself some room to
No matter what, I'm always in a lot more soil because I like to, if I know I screwed up, I've got 10 gallons of medium to fix my problem. Where if I'm in a 2-gallon and I screw up, I got about 2 hours before things are dead. And so it's a huge difference of going, well, if I just stick a garden hose on that 1,500 parts per million I just did in there, I'll probably be fine. But 1,500 parts per million in a root-bound 2-gallon, it's cooked. You're done. So, I think the most thing I think a lot of people I think this would be an interesting dialogue between a lot of growers is the size pot you use and why. And I think you're really going to come down to, individual styles and what they need and room and space and environment. And, I think if you have everything going well and you don't have space issues or limitations, by increasing it by 3 more gallons of soil, you're just buying more rhizosphere, you're buying more mycorrhiza surface area, you're buying more root absorption, you're probably going to get a little bit more yield out of it. So I think root zone equals yield.
Sure. Okay!
It's not too bad. Okay, what do you think? Informative, entertaining, helpful? Do you agree, disagree? Let me know in the comments and we'll talk about it. I love you. I'll see you tomorrow. The OCG Fam Show. It's pretty good. It happens every day. It's the OCG Fam Show. See you tomorrow.